Hello all, and welcome to another Ask Us Anything with DiGiCo. We have a couple of special guests with us today, but first I just wanted to say welcome back. We've had a few weeks off, and it's good to be back with you. And this is Ask Us Anything. The whole point of this is for you to ask our guest or us at DiGiCo any questions that you may have, however related or unrelated to the topics at hand they may be. So jump into the comments, let us know your questions, whatever your thoughts are going on there. We have a couple of people on the back end, obviously monitoring those and helping out. My name is Ryan Shelton. I am actually in the U.S. I work for the DiGiCo distributor here, which is Group 1 Limited. Joining me today is Matt Larson. So he's actually going to help me here interview. Hey, Matt.
Howdy.
Fantastic. Running the back end is Kyle McMahon. Hey, hello. I always make him wave. He doesn't like that. And then, I just, the preamble here, we're all doing this from our homes or businesses, internets. One of us is doing it from a boat. So, Internet is what internet is. So if it drops out, we're under a tornado warning here in Nashville. So it's expected to hit in just a few minutes. So anyway, if we all go away, we'll come back. We'll do our best. So thanks for joining us today. Let's start off right away with introducing our first guest, Kevin Glendinning, 2012 Parnelli Award Winner, Monitor Engineer of the Year, currently serving as Engineering and Sales Development for JH Audio, though he has been a monitor engineer for a very long time, mixing such acts as Lenny Kravitz, Justin Timberlake, Paul Simon, Alicia Keys, No Doubt, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Weezer, Stained, Deftones, Chance the Rapper, Solange, Sam Smith, John Mayer, Maroon 5, Kylie Minogue, Pete Yorn, The Cure, Leona Lewis, and Gwen Stefani. Wow, I kind of lost count there. Kevin, how you doing, sir?
I feel old. that's a lot of touring.
Yeah, I think several people are going to have questions about what it was like before they had analog consoles and what it was like mixing for you there.
We rub sticks together to make mixing happen or something. Hi, everybody. Good morning. Yeah, exactly. Good afternoon. Good morning, West Coast. Good evening, UK. Good to see everybody. This is a really cool special project, and thanks to Matt and everyone at DiGiCo, of course, you guys putting this whole thing together, and it's very good to see a brethren in the industry, my good friend Charlie as well. So this is cool. We're in lovely Stock Island, Key West, Florida today, and it's good to see everybody.
So we've given away who's on the boat today for the Anyway, let's get on to get Charlie introduced so we can get him on board and start getting on with the questions. So Charlie Hernandez, an Atlanta native, but has been living in Pennsylvania obviously for a while. Has been in the live concert industry since 2006, touring in live audio with Claire Global since 2008, and mixing live acts since 2013. His mix credits include the Eagles, Kanye West, Deftones, Fleetwood Mac, Rise Against, Sting, Soundgarden, Sir Elton John, and Manchester Orchestra. Joining us today, Charlie Hernandez. How you doing, sir?
Hello, everybody. Nice to be here. Doing great. Thanks for inviting me.
Of course. Thanks for joining us. I really appreciate it. This is going to be great.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think everybody at our company thoroughly enjoyed your promo picture as well. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. And
made me hungry.
Absolutely.
It's hard to find a good shot. I'm not someone that really just sits around and just has pictures, of them, and I'm well, here's one with the burrito, and it looks half good, so let's use it.
Fantastic. Awesome. So, question, let's just start off. How long have you guys known each other?
Maybe a decade?
I was going to say it was probably more like 08. And I want to say it was probably, stop me if I'm wrong, but I probably would have been a project with Claire Global. I had which was at the time Claire Brothers Audio. I had the pleasure of actually working with Charlie's father as a site coordinator, production manager for a couple of tours. And I'd heard about his son and the whole thing, and the Claire family is a real community. Once you get in with that, with the guys and gals in Lidditz and Nashville and even now Australia and everything, you really become friends with a lot of the core. And I don't know, I couldn't tell you the one first time meeting, but it was a lot when you came on the scene.
Yeah, I remember probably meeting you, I want to say, in Claire's Pop Zone on a console, probably helping you get something together there. But been growing the relationship since then. I mean, we've worked for the same bands a couple times now. That's been pretty fun. going back and forth, and running into you at the Parnellis and Polestar.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Your dad I think your dad got the Hall of Fame induction that night, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, how awesome is that? And you got to be able to see that, and it was a special night for myself, and my mom was with me, and we had a lot of fun afterwards,
right?
With a lot of special people in Las Vegas when they used to do them in Vegas, but and then exactly, and you've been out with Paul Simon. We've both done Deftones. We've the crossing of paths is pretty deep between Charlie and I, which is a lot of stories.
Yeah, and as you know, I mean, any festival stage, you're bound to run into people, so it's fun sharing the stage, unknowing who you're gonna be running into. You see the desk and oh, that's a Glendinning. Oh, sweet, I'll be seeing him around 7:00.
That's awesome.
Right and early.
Yeah.
So let me interrupt you guys. And Charlie, actually, why don't you start us off on this one? But would you mind just telling us how you got your start in the industry and what it was like as you worked your way up? Or were you just handed white gloves right out of the gate? And, what's that story like? How did you get started in the industry?
I was born a poor roadie of roadies, growing up in a caddy, being carted around the world. Basically, I mean, as a lot of people do know, my dad, production manager, I did end up living, from place to place with him on sites as well as being home. But so the touring industry wasn't that distant of an idea for the future. And when I ended up going out on a gig with them in 2006 and working as a carpenter with their crew, it's one of those moments when you've done everything from load in all the way to lights out, shows about to go on, and the audience just loses it. And you realize, oh, I had a hand in putting that up. And it's that instant gratification that goes, I guess, forever. It's paramount because it's something that I've based my life on from that point forward. It's something that I didn't even think that I was going to be involved in until that moment. And I go, oh, yeah, like that is something that I'm about. And then with audio, it was meeting Greg Hall at a Police concert in Atlanta, and the prospect of opening that door to someone like me in their internship program to work with Claire and be given the opportunity to learn their methods of audio and then take that forward under their leadership and guidance. And audio has always been the passion for me. And knowing that I had that backing of this family company like Claire, it felt like it was more of like someone taking you under their wing and showing you like, all right, let me show you how it's done out here. And couldn't think of a better company to do that for me.
That's awesome. Cool. What about you, Kevin? Do you want to give us how you got started?
Yeah, I'll try to give you the brief short version, which is really easy to do. But at 12 years old, went to a Guns N' Roses concert in Alpine Valley. I grew up in the Midwest, Wisconsin, Illinois, and I wasn't into audio. I was into the music, and my brother's buddy took me, and I sat in front of. We happened to stand next to the soundboard, and instead of seeing what was going on with the show and all the rock and roll, I was fixated on the guy doing what I had no idea what he was doing and how loud the system was. Fast forward about 5 years after, a small band from San Francisco called Metallica had put out a tour documentary. And at the very end, it listed tour audio provided by DB Sound, Des Plaines, Illinois. So right by where I grew up, my father actually worked on Rand Road or near there. And I said, Dad, Metallica's office is down the street from you. He said, cool, I'll check it out. I was like, this is so crazy. It's the suburbs. Nothing happens out here. So Dad goes, blah, blah, blah. Ends up being DB Sound. I didn't know about vendors and stuff back then. I emailed a gentleman named Harry Witz, and Harry gave me a job the following Monday. That summer, I swept the shop. My first job was steel wool on the delay cabinets from Alpine Valley, scraping pigeon droppings and eggshells off the delay cabinet. Guys, you want to talk about making it in the business? You have not arrived until you've done that. So anyway, long story short, Harry, he gave me an opportunity. DB Sound at the time had Stones, Metallica, AC/DC. I got to do the big trifecta as a technician and an assistant. Looked after some amazing engineers, and after that little stint said, you know what, I think I can do what they do. And I started knocking on doors and got very lucky on a lot of it. And some great people like Dave Shadone and Dave Ratt and Jim Douglas and everyone in Lidditz gave me some real opportunities, and it happened pretty quick in my early 20s. So it's been a ride.
So are you
awesome.
dealing with pigeon stuff on the boat right now?
Kind
of like a round circle.
The winds are blowing the other way for now. But yeah. We're clear for the moment, but I appreciate the concern up there, Matt.
Awesome. Hey, real quick, we actually got a question in. Let me see here. Mahesh Jadhav was asking about gain tracking. I want to find this one because it was actually pretty good. And I figured you guys are the perfect ones to ask about this. So he says, can you please tell me more detail about gain sharing? Like, how do you share cards? So on the tours that you have gone on, first off, do you use gain tracking when you've been on DiGiCo?
I can't speak for Charlie. I am one, if we can, absolutely not, just because I treat my entity and front of house just two systems, two crews and the whole thing. I kind of do some radical stuff, for better or worse, that I don't think any normal, sane, educated front of house mixer would ever want to share. So I've always been a huge proponent. 99% of the time, it's two systems, and been very grateful to have that opportunity.
Okay, cool. What about you, Charlie?
I want to say 90% of the time that I've used a looping scenario there, it's been independent gains. But on this one project with Kanye West, it is 3 SD7s all in a loop together, sub-mixing going down, and certain inputs and outputs being shared amongst everyone. So we do a lot of control isolations on those parameters to say that maybe this SD7 has control of mainly these 120 inputs, and then these two SD7s can do gain tracking between the two of them. So when monitors in front of house are doing the gains, that can be something that they work out between them. And then over on the choir console, I could have free reign of going after my gains.
Very cool. So Mahesh, to answer your question, basically with gain tracking, you're going to have typically one rack that is shared between multiple consoles. This can be applied to the same console on multiple input channels, but typically it's across separate consoles. And we can take an input into the input card, and this will work on any of the racks that DiGiCo has. And then you have, there's a simple button on the console that is following, and you just turn on gain tracking. It can be as simple as that. But what the algorithm is written is that there's basically dB per dB matched. So as the mic pre moves up, let's say 6 dB, in real time, the gain tracking is moving down 6 dB. So the net result of the channel is 0. We put our digital trim portion at the top of the channel strip. So basically all of the processing that follows it, all your compressor thresholds, all your EQ or dynamic EQ thresholds are all going to be hitting at the same level, despite wherever that mic pre is actually hitting. And actually something Kevin mentioned earlier is one of the main reasons for this. So a lot of times, you would like to think that as the mature of an industry as we have, and as, all these classes and everything we teach, you would think that everybody would use the same ideal gain structure for their consoles, but they don't. There's a lot of different philosophies and reasons why a front house engineer may do something different than a monitor engineer. And being able to run them at vastly different levels, or have them hit the faders, run your faders at different positions, is a good reason to be able to do that. And of course, if you're on larger tours, then a lot of times you do have the luxury of just getting more SD racks, which we're always okay with. You can always buy more SD racks, more mic pre's. We're always okay with that. But obviously, things get a little, you can be a little more economical by sharing those as well. So cool. Let's see. There were a couple other questions we want to go to. Matt, why don't you?
Yeah, let me throw one in there. Can you guys kind of talk about the transition from when you were on analog and then went to digital? It's getting to be an older story, but it's still a time where you might then all of a sudden be doing a one-off somewhere at a club where you're back onto analog for some reasons. You want to talk a little bit about that and the benefits and things that you do like and enjoy about the digital desks?
Charlie, go ahead, man. I mean,
yeah, sure. I mean, as far as my start, and a majority of my work has been in the digital realm, obviously, since my beginnings in audio was 2008. But when there's times where you come across, with the band that you're working with, where you come across a venue that doesn't have a digital house console and you're going to use their analog system. And if they don't have any compressors, gates, graphic EQs, anything like that in line, and it's just desk, maybe some processing on, from a monitor standpoint, processing on your amplifiers, you're having to do a lot more work, obviously, outside of just getting on your board and trying to put up mixes for people. In that realm, you're sort of spread out and getting reacquainted with your space and then their signal flow. And then when you have everything on a digital form, it's right there in front of you. Very easy to compressor, EQ, gate, everything's right there and send. So I know with some bands, they you have that discussion with them, or maybe the production's already done that for you with the advance of letting them know, hey, we're going to be using this or that today, and you just go in and talk to them. And you go, hey, it's going to be an analog day. Let's do some mixes. Let's get it up. Let's enjoy that warm feel of the Mackie that we're using, and we're all going to have a good time because that's what we're doing today. And you just try and steer it that way rather than focus on what you don't have. You just focus on what you've been given, what you've advanced, what you can do, and enjoy the moment because
it's a great attitude.
Yeah.
I think the cool thing about that also is you're communicating with the band, so you're kind of giving them a little bit of a heads up too, that you may have some struggles.
Remember back in '87, guys? Remember what that was like? Let's do that again.
Love it.
The problem is then they're all thinking, hey, my mix is warm, and there's that's because Charlie's on an analog today, and now you got to lug a giant thing around the planet.
We'll call it DigiTube, we'll call it the mustard rack, and we'll just get them, spun right around on that one.
There you go. There you go. Cool. Kevin, what about you? Did you start off an analog?
Yeah, I did. In a little bit of everything. Some old 3000 Yamahas. I was fortunate enough to work with a UK company called Kodak, which it isn't too prominent in the live world. It's more of a theater desk. But on Stone's Chris Wade Evans had spec'd 7 frames of them. It was the most monster system ever, and I figured it out real quick. And that was it was funny. Jay Summers was mixing Sheryl Crow, who was our support act. And he had brought this big wooden orange LCD thing made by Yamaha, and it was a PM1D. This was 2001. And sorry to mention, this, that.
That's
and it was like coming over, seeing like something for the first time. And I'm like, I looked at this thing and it looked like something you see at NASA. I mean, completely like, what is going on here? And Jay must be a genius and the whole thing. So that was the first time I even saw one. And I was like, oh, that's probably a flash in the pan, this and that. I'm going back to all my cabling and the whole thing. And then what was analogs, lots of Midas over the years, and a little bit of everything. And then I got onto I met the DiGiCo family, and DiGiCo, Lenny Kravitz. I inherited it from Brian Henry, and Lenny was I listened to DiGiCo in my ears, end of conversation. You want this job, you use a 5. And what do you say to that, right? So that was, then we upgraded over to the 7s, because DiGiCo was, we were, Lori Quigley and I had some of the first 2 7s from Sound Image out with Lenny, and it was just nothing but improvement. But yeah, there was a little bit of back and forth, but you definitely knew there was a turning of the tide in the digital domain, and quickly too. I want to say, Matt, what would you say, like 06?
Yeah, right on there. Yeah. Mid
2000s, it was quick.
Actually, probably like more like 27, 28.
Yeah. Whereas, if I had to guess, I'd say 80% plus. We're going something digital platform.
Yep, that's definitely happened quick. So let's take a little departure, but definitely, obviously, more monitor engineer focused. I'll let whichever one of you guys wants to take this, but can you talk about mixing for wedges versus mixing for ears? A lot of the people watching this are going to be a wide spectrum of where they're at in their career. Some of them may be mixing for churches. Some of them may be, mixing, small club bands. We got a wide variety of people that are going to be watching this. So what kind of advice would you have? What was your experience like? Just can you take us through that process?
Wedges make you deaf. Just kidding. Sorry if I yelled.
Loud wedges make you deaf.
Yes.
Yeah, loud ones do. I still like mixing speakers. Charlie, I think, echoes that as well.
Yeah.
I work for an IEM company. You know what I mean? And obviously, I'm very proud of that and the whole thing. I mean, Jerry Harvey will probably thirdly that, if that's a word. I'm still passionate about loudspeakers and wedges and side fills, and I still think that there's, especially where they are these days with the DSP where it is and lake systems and the whole bit. I don't know, like, and again, Charlie and I've mixed a lot of the same acts and stuff where some of them it's half desk of wedges, half desk of ears, or output rather. I'm a big channel duplicate guy where the snares, this snare one is for snare E is for ears, snare W is for floors. I usually split vocals 5 or 6 times and do one just to effect sends, one for the band, one for the artist ×2 with some heavy compression, and then a straggler for wedges so you can EQ it and make it safe. So yeah, it definitely adds to the plate instead of just doing a desk and an ear rack. But I mean, Charlie, you know the Paul Simon stage. There's one of everything in the entire world on that thing. So
there's definitely little pockets of sonic qualities everywhere. Yes,
and it's all different. So you guess the best you can, and you know, get your reference where you can get your reference. But yeah, I mean, you got to approach them. I almost think of it's a third craft of engineering. There's front of house, there's stage monitoring, and then there's ear mixing. I really believe that, and not saying patting us guys like Charlie and myself on the back, saying we wear 2 hats, but a lot of times you really are almost doing 2 things under one engineering scope.
It's definitely 2 spaces that you're filling with inputs, and the way I look at a stage is you already have. I mean, if you're on a stage with live speakers and you don't have ISO cabs or an electric drum kit, but let's just imagine it's an acoustic drum kit. Cabs on stage for guitars and bass, and what I'm using the wedges for is more filling up that space with everything that's on stage, which is the live sound reinforcement aspect of the stage monitors. So if you have a vocal, your drums, your guitar, your bass, you're creating this, what I think of more of like a globe of the mix from what's coming up from your floors, from your side fills, and each member is going to need something specific in their wedges. Maybe louder, maybe just more accented or more noticeable for them. But I think overall, my goal for stage monitors is to walk around the stage and be able to perform, not just have it be right. You have to stand right here if you want to do your job tonight. Yeah, I want you to have that freedom of mobility. And then with the in-ears, it's a whole nother craft because you can mix a record. You could make it as specific. You know, I think Mick Jagger just has his vocal. Like, so loud, and that's all he wants to hear, and that's cool because there's a mix underneath it, but that's not what the mix is about in that sense. And other people, it's I paid $1 million for a record, I want to hear that record, and you know, good luck. But you know, from that point, you can do so much more crafting and isolation with your in-ears than you can with wedges. I feel like the wedges just are a great live experience, and bands that want to use them, I'm all for it. And when you got both,
what do you think it is in the personality of the musician? Is it their personality? Is it that they grew up using wedges, or what is it that drives an artist to using wedges?
Definitely comfort level, what they're used to. So of course that correlates into age. IEMs came on the scene in 1995 in a very small approach. There was only a handful, and obviously 25 years later, it's probably going back to 80% of the stages now are IEM only, you know? So, there's definitely, like, speaking of the Stones, I mean, I actually got to see the most comedic thing I've ever seen in my life when someone actually handed Keith a set of dangling earpieces, and he said, "Get those away from me. We're going to keep it clean here." So he explained to us audio guys that was not going to happen. Right? So we'll leave it at that. So, you know, wedges it was for him. I mean, stuff like that's a no-brainer. I've done a couple transitions where I've said, "Hey guys, I think things are good. You guys cool? You know, you girls cool or whatever? Yeah, we're great. It's fun. We're having a good time and blah blah. I think you guys might be in time a bit better if we just try out this IEM thing." I went through a lot of problems. Not a lot of ups and downs with John Mayer getting 2 ears back in. He was just, John had to have his cabinet behind him and a wedge in front, and that's what he's been doing forever. And who am I to say, let's change it? Well, some specific things with playback and programming had come up for John, where I insisted that he wears 2. And I got really lucky, and it went really well. And he said, "You're going to make me a 2-ear guy." And we just started muting wedges on stage. And I'm getting calls from out front saying, "Man, that was so tight tonight. What's up?" And I was like, "We're cleaning it up here." So, where other times, and I'm not mentioning names, front of house guys need that thrash of stage. That's part of the vibe. They build from that.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's always different, you know.
Yep.
And not to pigeonhole new bands into being in-ear bands. I mean, I think it comes down to, you know, what's your record contract deal? You know, how was your upbringing? Did someone hand you a pair of in-ears at the beginning and say you should use these, or did someone put you up on a stage in a club and say you should play here?
I mean, how old are the Greta Van Fleet guys? They're like just out of high school. They're not interested in ear monitors. They like wedges. They like that vibe. They're
Manchester Orchestra, brand new. I mean, these are all wedge bands, no ears.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. I saw
awesome. Well, tell me this. If you were going to give some advice to somebody who was transitioning, they wanted to make the transition. I know most of the work you guys are doing are in the touring world when we're actually doing that, but there's a large market of, you know, house of worship and churches, and they probably just had a couple of wedges there because that's what the installer spec'd for them. But if they wanted to move to in-ears, would you have any advice for those engineers that are setting up those mixes for them on just things to look out for, how to help those musicians as they make that transition?
Watch your summation. Watch your gain structure going into your transmitter. And, you know, you've got to just be ever mindful of, you know, where your gain stages are, because when you bring in the wireless, I mean, even with the amplifiers, with their gains, but you have to be more mindful with the packs, the setups, the transmitters, where your gain stages, and then, you know, start basic and then don't put too much in there, because then the compressors are going to start kicking in, because you're just dealing with so many more obstacles that you can use in your favor artistically, but just more things to be aware of going into a wireless in-ear world.
Is it so what you would say is it's not a straight one-to-one, like we can't just expect to take the mix that's coming off of the soundboard or sound mixing console and just plug it in a transmitter and have it come across to musicians in the same way?
No, because then you could record an in-ear mix and plug it into a left-right and play it through a PA on blast, and it should sound great. But you're mixing to the ears, you're mixing to the transmitter, to the console, to all that stuff. So cool. It's a different speaker that you're working for at that point too.
Cool. Kevin, you have anything to add there?
Yeah, no, I mean, Charlie hit all points. I mean, fundamentals, you know, audio flow. How heavy am I hitting the desk? How heavy am I hitting the transmitters? Where is the pack level on? These days, radio systems are getting great. They're getting super quiet in terms of noise floor and radio floor, loaded with a lot more features. That's another conversation. But, you know, once you go to wireless mixes, RF is paramount. You need to know your radio system as well as you know your audio chops. You know, that's definitely, I mean, you could have the best thing going, a finalized left and right, brilliant mix, throw some Clang on there, give it imagery. If the radio's chirping up, it doesn't matter. You're getting packs thrown at you. So, well, I wouldn't say that. People don't do that anymore. But, no.
Charlie's laughing. Charlie's laughing. I feel like he's gotten a pack thrown at him before.
No, but it is part of the speech when working with artists.
Yeah, but no, I definitely it's just some advice. It is definitely less is more. Try out simplistic stuff. Don't go crazy with multi-band compression over the left and right. I mean, that's great. We introduce stuff in baby steps. You have to remember we're talking speakers with millimeters that are next to your tympanic membrane. You know what I mean? This is very delicate, sensitive stage monitoring. Whereas we could get a little 3K squeal out of a 58 and probably it will come and go and you'll grab it and be done with it and nobody will ever address it. Whereas if you have some annoyance in an ear mix, for 90 minutes or something, there's problems to address. So it's definitely a more of a sensitive thing for sure. Just to coincide with radio systems, earpieces nowadays are miniature audio systems, crossover points and time alignment of components and the whole thing. I mean, it really is. It's just like what L Acoustics and Martin and Claire Brothers and DMB are utilizing. So it's I think when it steps engineers' games up, when you have sound systems that are so good and detailed and have intelligibility that's just far out and wild, it makes us step up our game, because like it's going to give everything away. I did a hot swap with a band, ordered new ears, everyone got their cool look and the whole thing, and they sat in the work box because they wouldn't sound check. Well, we did a hot swap, and it was definitely from a lesser quality to a very high quality that I am a big proponent of. And I had the whole band staring at me stage left, screaming at me because I had changed their mixes all night. And I didn't touch a thing and hadn't touched stuff in months. They just had some more detail and were hearing things they hadn't heard before. So I was, just like with console technology, when stuff, all we're trying to do these days is make improvements, right? Not take steps back.
Hey, that's I got a good transition from that. Let's talk about, like, say you're out with a band and maybe they bring on a new band member, or you're out with a band and there's a warm-up act and you're kind of going to mentor them, maybe mix that band, and they've never got into ears. What is the process that you deal with that artist to get them ears? Is it trying to get them molds right away, or do you try to get them on some generics, or do you kind of ask them what they like to try to pick the model that's right for that person?
Yeah, I think that a lot of times, in this, again, it's like kind of what Charlie said earlier. It's not a problem with the younger bands. They're just kind of used to it because of the availability at Sam Ash and Guitar Center, and they see the bands they're opening for. Most of them are wearing ears and stuff. But as far as the actual approach to that, Matt, is like I would just literally try to have a 30-second conversation with he or she and show how they insert, show them that the pack starts all the way off. These are very loud drivers that are next to your, there is a safety thing. I think that is fundamental to be addressed. Clean radio and start at low volumes. So otherwise, I'm not going to mention any names. I know some people that tried ears once, they got zapped, or they were handed a pack full bore, and to this day are still on Wedges because they will never forget that moment. It was very scary for them. They're musicians. They get paid to hear stuff, right? So, but yeah, I don't know. Like I'm thinking from experience, but literally just saying, hey, you got 20 seconds. I just want to run this by you. Obviously, we would all love to start with some really nice, high octane custom ears, but normally it's just a set of universal fitting somethings. Get wet the whistle a little.
I find often when someone wants to try ears, they're the ones approaching us and saying, like, hey, so. People are. I have friends that are musicians, and they think I should try this in-ear thing. And it's one of those conversations you've probably been itching to have with somebody because maybe you've been fighting feedback all night. You're like, yes, man, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're gonna love it. And then at that point, would you like to try? I try and have a couple of pairs of generics so that you can be able to offer that option during a sound check. But if you get the opportunity, try it out. And then there's other people that just go there, like what Kevin was saying with Keith Richards, just like, let me tell you how the stage runs up here. And it's not with ears.
So earlier you'd mentioned the conversation with John having just the one ear in, and luckily you were able to get 2 ears in. Have you ever had the frank conversation with other artists of how it's going to hurt them by having just one ear in, as I'm doing the same thing for my...
Yeah, I was going to say busted. Yeah, Charlie, I guess go ahead. I'm trying to think. I just always push for it, and you don't always win it, muscle memory and people that are comfortable doing stuff. We're all guilty of just being, in our set ways, right? But
some people just can't help but pop an ear, and just take one out.
Even when you've got the elaborate room mic things, and it's all subgrouped and sometimes even automated, and it really sounds great, and then they'll just, I'm a lot of guitar players just want to hear their 4x12 behind them without us coloring it, and forget to throw the thing back in. That I see a lot. When there's cabs on stage.
Can you talk a little bit in deeper detail of how you set up your audience mics and what's your process, both guys?
Yeah, Charlie, go ahead. I'm curious.
I got an idea on audience mics. It's kind of conventional, I think, but a quick note on the one ear to maybe working on a 2-ear thing. I did have some good results going with ported ears for a 2-ear system from someone who was using 1 ear, because the condition was, I want to feel my bass cab. I want to come back here and mess with the amp, and it doesn't affect any of the audio quality for any of the sound engineers. It's just for him on stage, and he wanted to be able to feel and hear that difference of what he messed with on his head. We went with ported, and he's loved the ported 2-ear system ever since. And that's a nice sort of hybrid in between the two of them. I think if you want to maybe try someone to try to get them off of the 1-ear system. Okay, audience mics. Stereo VP8s are pretty cool, and messing with the phases on those and maybe a pair of those so that you have 4 inputs. I like to dial those in pretty much 10 minutes before showtime if I have that time, because I think that's leading up to enough of the noise in the venue is picked up. Walk-in music, you've got the audience in front of you to sort of emulate what it's going to be like in the downtime in between songs, and that's what you're going for anyways, is that that communication for some artists. So I don't really have to worry about that in the middle of the show, because I feel like whatever I did at the beginning 10 minutes before has kind of held through. But delaying, phasing, panning, it's all been a mixture and just combining them. And if you're not running them necessarily in the middle of a song, you don't have to worry too much about the phasing, I feel like, in the ears. But if there's a lot of like, I'm saying stuff, you're saying stuff, maybe there's a little bit more attention to detail to be had when you're combining those inputs.
Where do you try to put the microphones?
Typically the corners of the stage, just facing doing an XY thing towards the middle. And I've done on one act, I did short range dynamics, and then long range shotguns, and then did a blend of those and panning to bring that out. Another time I was doing a choir that was 270, and the conductor wanted to hear spatially. If he pointed over there, he wanted to hear the choir from that side. He wanted to hear the choir from the right side. So that was very much panning in relation to what he wanted to hear, and using a combination of dynamic and condenser mics to pull that one off.
Gotcha.
I think I nailed it. Key things, experimentation. It's the room coming back is different every day. And I always like, after the support act and line check's done, once the people start coming back in and revving up, and even hearing the PA music rumble the room a little, and you're kind of like, oh wow, it's real 250 heavy in here, or $160 is real, happening here, whatever. And then absolutely just experiment. And the nice thing on the DiGiCos is the incremental phase is not just in, out, you can have some variance to it, which I never really thought of, and I use it all the time. The other thing is just to separate them. Again, no one room is going to be the same, but and the crossfire thing, I mean, Charlie hit all points, crossfire thing, and that the one thing that I do see being problematic is people being too conservative with high pass filtering, especially when those things are living on the subs, and or you have camera guys walking by the deck on the tape stage. I mean, I've put them up to 250 before, you know what I mean, just to eliminate any of that and this and that, because think about what they're hearing. But yeah, not only that, but put them on a DC master, absolutely, because that call and response Charlie was talking about. Hello, Cleveland screams. They're going to want to hear that, and that's a big... Don't go
chasing for faders for that moment.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a big thing, too, of people going, I just want to wear one ear. If you don't nail that, because then they're going to get that separation. Audience side, stage side. Well, the reason they're on stage is because I like the interactions. So audibly, psychoacoustically, it's cool to be able to introduce that into an ear mix.
Cool.
And don't ever put room mics in wedges, because I've been asked that. Don't do that.
That's almost like a test. Like someone
asked that.
That's right up there with, can you loosen the gate on my overhead? I swear. That actually happened.
No, I love it. Hey, real quick.
Okay.
So did you then take it out, Kevin?
No. No.
What were you saying, Charlie?
As far as the stereo spectrum, when it comes to ears, if you're going to have something, I was going to say, if you have a really wide group or channel for your audience mics and they're compressed and loud, if you're going to jam that up into a mix and your mix is compressed, you're going to hear your whole mix, kind of suck in if you're not careful with what you're doing. So if you do that call and response thing, don't bring your whole mix down while you're doing that at the same time, because you have such a big stereo input going in and then coming back out. So, maybe narrow up the scope of your stereo. If it's not as important for the audience to hear that person or that person, you can just get by with an audience input rather than have it take up such a huge space of bandwidth in a wireless mix.
Have you ever done any automation with room mics, Charlie, or anything that's not just manual?
One time I thought about doing it off the hi-hat. As an idea of like, this band is always on the hi-hat whenever they're playing, and when they're not, it might be a key to open it up. And
that's cool.
2 songs later, I bypassed it and just went back to what I was doing.
Well, that was an idea. Gone.
So many times I go like, let's try this. Oh, never mind.
Yeah. Well, hey, so you're actually going where I was wanting to go next. How do you lay out your console to make sure you don't miss those moments with the audience mics?
I like I said, I have that. It's usually number 16 in the control group masters, which are right next to, which are downstage center on the control surface right in front of me. And it's the furthest one to the right. It's usually next to, I'm a right-handed guy, so it's usually next to the vocal verb and the money channel, whatever he or she's, whatever that is, whether it's guitar solos, vocals, or whatever. But yeah, I'd say that master fader gets more use than probably anything else. Hopefully, hopefully you're all that, that's a sign of a smooth running tour, is when you're turning audience mics on and up and down all night.
Cool.
Yeah.
Charlie, same for you?
I think really it just comes down to the act. If someone wants audience mics up all the time and it's more of a dynamic feel, there's that. There's maybe you don't really need it necessarily downstage center in that scenario, and you could have it just off to the side, more for like where you're going to be hitting solos. But for me, it's always on a page that I'm going to be on, and especially for like something like an SD7, it's like, oh, there's my top bar, and I'm just going to go ahead and throw that right there. Because even if I'm on a page, I want to be able to access something like that. If I know it's important to the artist, I want to be able to give them, that at a moment's notice without fumbling for a channel bank or something.
Awesome.
What about, if you ever had a macro engage that? Have you ever done something like that, or always done a control group for it?
I've always done a control group or a VCA. I never thought about having like a macro, because you could preset those parameters for where you wanted that fader to go in between those times. Yeah. Kind
of, you could almost do like a small, medium, a large. How much of a size, or ABC, whatever, of a fader value. You know what I mean? I guess we're getting real fancy. That's ridiculous. I'm sorry I said that.
No, it's good.
Macros are fun buttons. They're fun buttons.
Absolutely.
And when you can do the fade time in between them like that too, that can make it feel natural, and it's not just like, oh, there they are.
You could do a quick macro for something that the call and response, something real quick, and then you could do a slow one to gradually bring stuff back post song, like a mellow fade out when he or she wants to hear the audience come back slightly and not immediate.
Right. I think some of the part of that problem is seeing a lot of people run digital boards like they're analog, and so to setting it up that way, you get used to maybe sending inputs into effects and having the return open rather than doing other things around. But that's a fun idea. That would be worth exploring. I would like to do that. That would be fun.
Cool. Let's take a slight step back. We had Charlie Bibby. I'm not sure how we pronounce his name, so
hello,
apologies.
Charlie.
Hey.
What's
Bobby,
up, buddy?
So he is asking a question on the subject of wedges. What's your process for time aligning the stage? So, Charlie, you can have the first 30 minutes, and then Kevin, you can have the next 30 minutes.
Well, I got to do this on one tour, and that was because I took out flow and side fills for the first time. And so I got to get out there with my tablet and play some loud music and go around messing with delay times.
It's like you're like a front of house tech or something.
I know. And I'm like,
crazy.
Look at me. Honestly, I took advice from my system engineer, and I started with wherever my 0 point was going to be, and I worked the speakers to that point. And then after I got my delay times through not through smart, not through time aligning by anything other than sliding the scale of milliseconds of delay on the I/O. I would get a nice sounding. The stage would sound solid at that point. Maybe flip a phase on the subs and see if it helped or hindered the mix. Adding the drum sub into the mix, of course, as part of that overall sonic summation of everything on stage, and then during sound check, going out on stage, seeing how everything's interacting with front of house. I mean, at that point, I don't know if it really comes into contest stage bleed, PA bleed, because it's 112 dB on stage. But, you know, I know that the stage, what they're hearing, those sources are all hitting at the same time. And as you're moving around, everything sounds cohesive.
Cool. Kevin?
Sorry, I had the old mute button. Sorry, it's been a while since I've been muting things on and off. I apologize. I definitely same page from that Charlie's speaking on. Before I do anything on stage, I'll listen to what the system subs are doing, listen to what the front of house guy is doing, and only try to augment that. Now, I know we're talking about Charlie's question was about time delay. That's going to be the fundamental. The bass delay, and not bass as in sub bass, but BASE, bass time delay. So wherever he or she is mixing at, that's an entity, that's a sonic energy that's always going to be there. Now from there, I'll turn side fill subs on. This is thinking we have a full speaker system on deck. Side fill subs on to see if I'm canceling that out, if I'm being additive, if it's just smeared and washy. A lot of times I'll try to get kick drum going and then back up the PA sub, so we are summing. Now, the only problem is you have people and humans and individuals moving around, so time is going to shift regardless. It's physics, basic physics at that point. But as far as like floor monitors, like conventionals, I'll usually stay away from that. It's usually pertinent to low end because I just find more cancellations occurring with that. Or the problem exists with I'm fighting front of house, or I'm canceling him, or whatever it is. But I'll have a vibe with what's going on FOH wise before I start adding what I'm adding. Sometimes it's enough, and nobody wants to hear this, but the side fills over there are muted, and I'm getting plenty of boom boom from the PA because my guy out front or girl out front has got a ton of subs, and that is doing just fine. So. It's, and again, every stage is different. Charlie and I both mixed the Deftones. I did them. I started with them in 02, 03, I think. And Charlie did a whole bunch of album cycles. There's never not going to be wedges, and there's never not going to be side fills. End of conversation.
And there's never not going to be ears. And
correct.
They're all going to be really loud.
Yep. That's a really good. It's like the heavy version of the Paul Simon stuff. There's just stuff everywhere, you know. And fortunately, they're an amazing sounding band that will work with you with audio, and you get a lot of punch with it. And Andy Tinsley, who does front of house, is an awesome guy who wants everyone to have a good night. It's not a fight with him. He'll work with you in the whole thing, and he's a smart system guy, and you know the whole thing. So. I know we're getting kind of off, but I just, as far as time alignment, I really don't like to smear things too much unless it's subs.
I'll echo that. I don't want to say that I delayed the floor monitors. I definitely didn't do that. It was only when I had flown side fills that I ever messed with delays. But the sub bass, as far as, because we had 5 218s on stage, and whenever it got to sound check, whatever the system engineer always did seemed to line up with what we were doing on stage. Maybe that's the sign of a good system tech that goes out there and listens to what's rolling off the stage and then brings their subs into alignment with it. Or maybe it went around behind me and threw some delay on my subs. I don't know, because it was just definitely thumping, and it was a solid push of low end every time, which is pretty awesome.
When those SEs are tuning in a room and they put the RTA downstage center, they're not listening to front fills, they're listening to the mess we're making and going, okay, well, that exists up there. So I know when an abundance of 72 cycles or whatever it is rumbling, it's probably what's happening, with the bass cabinet in conjunction with the side fill or whatever's happening. But I again, echoing Charlie, having a good SE will make a monitor guy or gal night a lot better.
Sure.
Yeah, it's invaluable.
Very cool. All right. Question for you that's going to sound like a product placement, but it didn't come from me. It came from Zeke, who is one of our reps, so it did kind of come from us. So it is product placement. Are you guys utilizing Clang?
With your Jerry Harvey ears.
Right, man. There's promotion happening today.
Is that a C-Ray that you're on? No, I'm sorry. Couldn't see it.
Close. No. Close. I have to be totally honest. I've gotten my feet wet, no pun intended, with Clang just this year. Jerry Harvey Audio has close relations with them as DiGiCo does. Matt has afforded me a very awesome opportunity this past summer, and I have a beautiful DiGiCo in our office in Orlando at the lab, and we have a Clang system from our friends at Clang. There she is. That's headquarters. That's the home office, and or the office. I call it home because I'm there more than I am home. But it's the theory behind it. The conceptually, I think it's genius. It's long overdue. The fact that you can integrate it into a control surface by this wonderful company called DiGiCo is awesome. I have yet to do a show with it and can't wait to do one. Everyone I trust, who I look up to, who I ask questions, who we bounce things back and forth, is now I'm not going out without a Clang system now type of individual. So yeah, very very excited for it. And like I said, just as a concept, building imagery in space in IEMs is that makes or breaks.
Well, it's kind of nice that, I hate to say it, but now you do have the actual time, although you're working all the time, but to have a little time to play with the Clang system, really understand the concept, using various tracks from bands that you've recorded in the past, so you really get your head wrapped around it versus doing it with the band coming in on the first day.
Yeah, a lot of trial and error. Just firing up a 58, throwing in a dry ear mix with nothing happening, and start trying stuff. Yes, read your manuals. Yes, know what the faceplate does and the software and the whole thing, but just try stuff. Get creative. I've made a ton of mistakes and learned from a lot of them, just going, oh, well, that's not going to cut it. But man, I've figured out that's a real sweet way to get A to B right there real quick. So, and like I said, some real trusted ears, really smart guys and gals who have had it on tour we leave home without a Clang unit now.
Awesome. Yeah, we found when we're onboarding both engineers and artists, you can spend hours talking to them about psychoacoustic theory, why you should place some things in front of you, behind you. But ultimately, what you're saying is just spot on. Just go try it. If the artist likes this microphone here and this input source here, cool. Like that's the whole point of that. So Charlie, what about you? Have you had a chance yet?
I have not had a chance to do anything other than listen to a demo. But I will echo Kevin in saying, I am looking forward to trying it out. I'd love to use it one day. It only makes sense, especially with this, with how a lot of things an artist wants to hear in ear. And when you can take it beyond a left-right spectrum and you can start adding space into that realm, and it's just connected to a card on your D-Rack or your SD rack, would be something cool that I would love to try out. It's the demo is mind-blowing. And I've had people tell me that.
I think you need to come down and spend some time with us down there, buddy.
I might need to.
That's what we're getting at. Right.
I might need to.
Mandatory.
Okay, done.
Mandatory.
Yeah, no, that would be a lot of fun. A band like a band with 120 inputs. If you could add space to that and add dimension to those mixes without having to populate with all reverbs and brooms and subgroups to be able to accomplish that is pretty cool. And it's a 2-space unit, so there's also that.
Awesome. So real quick, let's see here. Kevin, I'll let you go first. And if you need a minute, we can pass it off to Charlie. But tell us about one of the most exciting, fun, entertaining, embarrassing moments of your professional career. You got a fun story to pass on?
Yeah, Fiona Apple opening for Coldplay, Pepsi Arena, Denver. I think I want to say 2005. We had extended some dates with her and for the support act, and unfortunately that conflicted with me starting another tour with Chili Peppers, which I was already committed to. So I said, Fee, I'm so sorry. My last night's going to be Denver. Stu Wilson's coming in. He's going to do great, and he killed and the whole thing. And she said, well, wait a minute. I said, well, remember how we added on these 9 shows? I've already had something lined up. And, she's a pro. She got it. She said, well, you've been great, and thanks so much. I loved working with that young lady, and the whole staff was great. Well, the end of the night, my last show, Denver, I was literally flying to Rat Sound to prep the Peppers the next day, and, from one bus to the next, as they say. And she says, she goes, thank you so much. This is my last song. Enjoy Coldplay tonight. And, of course, the room is full because it's snowing outside and freezing. So everybody's in the arena already. And so there's, what is that, 20-some-odd thousand? She goes, real quick, my sound engineer is leaving us and blah, 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 blah. And she said some other little things I won't get into. And she goes, can you guys all do me a favor? And Gunji, make sure you're recording this. As we all knew our good friend Gunji out in front of house. And who was, Maddie, how tall was Gunji? 7'1"?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, so you have 2 hands giving the thumbs up, going, yes, we're rolling. And trust me, everyone in the arena saw, including myself from Monitor Pit. And she says, on the count of 3, screw you, Kevin. 1, 2, 3, screw you, Kevin. Nice. And the guys from Coldplay were all there. That Gwyneth Paltrow gal was laughing. It was, dude, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She was so sweet, man. She blew me a kiss and the whole thing. And still to this, that was 15 years ago. But yeah, the minute you said awesome. Embarrassing, that's got to take it, man. That's got to take it. And I think Gunji's wife sent me the recording. She found it somewhere or something. And I don't know how to beat that. I got a bunch of stories, but that's got to be at least in that conversation.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
That was a good one.
Charlie, what about you?
I'll go with a greatest moment because I'm sure that anybody could tell embarrassing moments for me. The Sting show that we ended up doing in Ibiza was a huge festival for I think like 60,000 people over on the island, and it was the World Cup final, and Spain and the Netherlands were in it, and here we are, and they have put the final up on the video wall for the festival stage, and we're supposed to go on in 10 minutes, and the match had been on for maybe 30 minutes, and Sting said, "We'll wait till the end of the match." Mm-hmm. And these are 90-minute runs, and you end up watching this World Cup with an audience of 60,000 people as Spain brings in the World Cup win. And you just have the whole island, like vibrating as everybody's jumping up and down, losing their mind at the victory. And then Sting goes, and I think it's time to walk on. And we begin the show. And it was just one of those transitions of moments that go, like, you could play every note bad tonight and nobody would care because like Spain just won the World Cup. Doesn't matter. But we're going to run with this. The next hour and a half was you're floating. It's on everything's like clockwork at that point, and you're just watching this moment unfold in front of you. Fireworks.
He's the coolest guy you've worked for. I know your dad's been with him a couple decades, if not longer. By
far, coolest, kindest human.
A real dude.
Would give you the smallest, best feeling shirt off his back if you needed it.
Awesome. All right, so Matt, is there anything else you want to ask before I
think there's one important question from Steve earlier we got to get to.
Oh, yes. How did we miss that one?
Yeah. Steve Walsh wants to know how Charlie and Kevin get so handsome on the road.
Can stay so handsome.
Listen, Walshy.
He's one to talk.
I was gonna say. I mean, like, come on. He's like Steve Walsh, guys. Come on.
The Silver Fox of Rob Zombie. Come on, man.
It was funny. Steve worked with Tommy Lee for ages and ages, and Tommy, when we were doing some stuff on the VMAs with Timberlake, Justin had Tommy play drums on Sexy Back, and it was cool. It was Motley Crue with a pop artist. It was just it was unique. It was really neat. And Tommy had gone, "Yo, dude, you're like Steve, but like shorter and not all the cool tats." And I was like, "Walshy?" So, and a lot of that stems from his drum tech Viggy kind of instigating quarterback that whole thing. So Steve and I were out on a tour a couple years ago in Mexico, and I sent those guys a photo of Steve and I having a coffee next to one another, and I was like, "Yeah, all right, that's a compliment. Thanks, guys."
So good. So real quick, assuming all the COVID stuff hadn't happened, where would you guys be right now? Charlie, did you have anything lined up that you would be working on at this moment?
I think Eagles had a Wembley show this week.
Oh. Okay. Oh, that's it?
Oh, yes. That sounds like
I thought you had
right now.
I thought you had something cool, man. That's it.
Yeah, right. Assuming.
Kevin,
I think we're in August, right? 2020, right? Earth. Australia, 12 shows, and like, Coach, if you're on and I'm wrong, yell at me. I think like a dozen or 15 shows with Paul Simon, Australia, which is wintertime there right now. We're going to do a bunch of entertainment centers, indoor arenas. They're like hockey arena size, but it's I got to spend the month of February up there with we did a bunch of shows at the Opera House, which was a total bucket list gig. So anytime I get to Australia, there was a big heart around my calendar in August because I was going to be down under for it. And, that's it. It's all good. But I will say this, and everyone's in. Before we all go, DiGiCo has been awesome with handling their clients and their engineers and COVID, and what you guys are doing, I think is just, it's exemplary, and it's a great thing. Keeps the community positive, and for, we all miss each other very much. The vendors, the engineers, yes. It really does. There was the Grammys this year, and then it kind of went away. Right. So, Matt and I have usually had about 9 dinners between now and then. So, I miss those a lot. But no, what you guys are doing is cool. And I always praise you guys, not only for having literally the best mixing platform in the world, but the vibe and the community and what you guys do for the clientele is really remarkable.
Oh, thank you, Kevin. We appreciate that. So one of the wrap-up questions that I told you and asked you about beforehand, though, is what advice would you leave the people watching this with? Just assuming there's probably people out there who are somewhere along the journey of, along with professional audio, maybe some that are just getting started. What kind of advice would you give to those engineers that are starting out? Charlie, do you want to start off with this one?
Sure. Let's see. Listen to everything that is said, whether it's good or bad. It's going to be information. You can discern whether it's good information or not. Pay attention to what everyone is saying, because again, maybe you need to know this, maybe you don't. It's worth paying attention to because they're saying it to you. They're saying it to you for a reason. Wear a watch. Don't be late. You can't rely on your iPhone all the time. Make sure you know where you're going to be at what time at all times. And learn from your mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes. Try not to kill anybody while making them. That's what proper training and OSHA is there for. And nobody likes a repeat offender on those mistakes. You know, if someone's told you don't do that, they probably mean don't do that. So it just, these all seem like really basic things, but you would be surprised what it can do for your career.
Yeah.
I mean, were you raised by a world-class production manager or what? Be honest, right? I remember, I'm just thinking like breakfast time at the Hernandez house is like a load-in, you know? Eggs not yet. Bacon goes in first, like, you know, like,
don't get oil spotted.
15 minutes early.
Yeah.
Early is on time. Absolutely. Yeah. Kevin, what about you?
Do everything Charlie just said. Get your foot in the door. We've been on for a while, so if you missed my story about I got lucky, that's a huge part of it. Whether you're born into it, whether you meet the right person at a show, you'd be surprised if you're going in front of house or if you're downstage right next to the stage left monitor board. You know, you can just. Sorry, I may have paused there. Did I lose you guys?
Your video's frozen.
We still hear you.
We can still hear you.
Yep. Sorry. No, there was a phone call. I apologize. Let me get you back here. Are you guys there?
Yes.
Okay. So
you can keep chatting while you sort it out.
Oh, he's gone. All right. Well, whatever nugget of wisdom he was going to share with you probably would have, catapulted thousands of you into the audio industry, and we'll never know.
50 push-ups a day, I think he was going to end with.
It was 50 push-ups. Is that the secret?
Don't forget like that.
All right. So,
while we're waiting for him to get back on, Charlie, can you tell us like one or two people that have been your mentor? You know, of course, your dad, I'm sure, that. But like in audio, is there somebody who's actually been your mentor that you've learned a lot from over the years? Sure.
I mean, mixing-wise, Pete Buse, Ian Newton, Howard Page were three mixers that took me very quickly under their wing, and they were never afraid to answer a question as far as audio goes. Tour manager-wise, I've worked for some of the greatest ones, and they've drugged me through it all, and they've propelled me into avenues that I didn't think were possible. And Marty Hom, Billy Francis. There's a lot of people, but audio-wise, Howard Page, Ian Newton, Pete Buse, Charlie Bybee even. I mean, I look up to my peers because
Charlie's terrific. He's terrific.
Because we call each other and we say, like, I'm doing this. I've got 3 delays on a vocal and an ear mix. Is that crazy? No. Listen, let me tell you about the time I had 5. So it gives you clarity. Also, I mean, audio is a ever-evolving world. So I look up to my peers as much as I look up to the people that have been doing it for 30 years already.
So the question that we just had, Kevin, while you're getting back online was, is there a mentor that's actually somebody that mentored you in the audio or production?
Yeah, again, Charlie and I, we come from the same ilk, I mean, tour managers and production managers, of course, they put in the longer hours, and they all definitely, when we're coming in a little later in the day or whatever, they've been there for a lot longer, and they want the band happy and do everything they can for us to make our positions easier. On the audio side of it, though, like I said, I was a number 2 guy for Christopher Wade Evans on the Rolling Stones, Paul Owen on Metallica, John Roden and Niall Slevin with AC/DC. So, I mean, that's it's ridiculous the schooling that would bring to someone all under half a decade. Everyone at DB Sound growing up in Chicago, Todd Johnson, Harry Witz, everybody just. A kid from the burbs, didn't know anything, finds himself on a tour with his all-time favorite band, 3 months down the road after scrubbing pigeon droppings off the delay cabinets. It was a pretty cool opportunity. But these days, I'm very fortunate to call Jerry Harvey audio home, and Mr. Harvey is, as we all know, is an innovator and a pioneer in the world of IEMs, which I think There he is. Look at that handsome desk and that handsome man spinning up an ear mix. That was a couple weeks ago. We were listening to some beautiful L acoustic speakers, and doing some R&D, and yeah, that's a great shot. That's very recent, and Jerry hasn't spun up stuff in a while. He's been so busy with making some amazing stuff these days. But yeah, we've become such good friends. I was a customer back in the Ultimate Ears era, and when he started JH Audio, I had wanted to bring everyone I was working with on over because I trusted him. I knew what he was putting out was going to be great, and we just get closer and closer as the years go by without being corny about it. And I love my job. I love going to work, and I love working there. So it's very fortunate. Charlie says it's very fortunate to be able to work with friends. It's a cool thing, and it's a cool thing to have a mentor as also your employer. It's pretty great.
Awesome. Well, hey, Kevin, I wanted to give you a chance to answer the question when we got disconnected there. Did you have any advice? Obviously, do everything that Charlie said.
Yeah.
Charlie thought you were going to say make sure to do 50 push-ups a day. That 70. Was probably one of them. 70. Okay.
Yeah. 70. And run the stairs at load in. Yeah.
Run the stairs at load in.
Run the stairs at load in. Pull-ups in the back lounge. Yeah, you name it. No.
You and Matt Patterson can have fun with that. I'm out.
Yeah. Oh God, Matt Patterson. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Exactly. Get your foot in the door. Doesn't matter what. I'm not telling you to be dishonest, but no matter what it takes, learn every craft you can. Go at it and be able to hump feeder, fly motors, mix front of house, pin a stage, repair a wedge driver. You know what I mean? No RF. Just hit it all out of the park. These days, especially with the shutdown happening, there isn't any entity of this insane industry we have that you can't learn online. You can't take offline courses. You can't pick somebody's brain. I don't know if this got cut off or not, but when you go to shows, a lot of times the engineers, he or she will talk to you. There's value to that that's incalculable. It's amazing. If they don't talk to you, you know what? They probably weren't worth your time. I don't. If they're in the show, don't bother them. They're working. But after they have maybe flipped the board, see if you can hang around for a little bit or get an email address. You never know. I got very lucky with some very A-level guys at a very young age that I was able to pick their brain, and it worked out pretty okay. But whatever. If you want to be serious about it, don't be afraid of long hours, bad food, cold weather, rain, and noisy buses.
Awesome. Cool. Real quick, Charlie, I wanted to throw it back to you. There's a foundation that's near and dear to you. Would you mind telling us about that for a minute?
Yeah, sure. Just a bunch of roadies. Mission statement's pretty simple. We're an organization whose goal is to utilize the skills and assets, relationships and determination and compassion of those who work in the touring music industry in order to execute humanitarian-based projects domestically and internationally. I've personally been involved with getting medical supplies into Haiti after the earthquake, with packaging supplies to go over to Afghanistan after the earthquake as well. Our intent is to respond to specific projects based in needs in collaborative and efficient manners with the companies and individuals in the music industry and in tandem with other NPOs, NGOs in order to double the efforts and broaden our reach. So that's using upstaging trucks to get supplies from Red Cross down to an airport that Rocky Cargo has chartered a plane for, that Bono and Sting have paid for the fuel for, so that we can get Red Cross medical supplies into Myanmar or wherever the disaster was, or the event as it calls.
That's awesome.
Yeah, in our country, in the United States, we're working on food deprivation and a food shortage and insecurity. So our main goal is get out to your food bank and donate what you can, because all you're doing is just helping out your community and your neighbors eat and stay alive every night.
That's awesome. Beautiful. Very cool.
All right, remarkable. If I may, real quick, I know I was supposed to say this earlier. Like I said, everyone is doing some amazing stuff right now. Charlie, that is unbelievable. I'm an idiot for not knowing about it, and I can't wait to hear more. That's really moving. RoadieClinic.com. Our good friend Paul Clemson has got an amazing foundation. It's up and coming. It's on its way up. Just check it out. They were on Good Morning America yesterday, and it's, again, like what Charlie's doing. It's good people doing good stuff in and out of our community. So I had to get that 2 seconds in there. I apologize.
No. Please, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for being with us today. It has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for letting us pick your brains, get to ask you questions, get to know a little bit more about you and the industry and your place in it. And we have a couple of promos for this week coming up. First, there is a Locked Up with DiGiCo with Nicolo Antonetti, Saturday, August 29th at 12 p.m. Central. That'll be 6 p.m. British summertime. So he's going to walk you through how to set up, or how at least he sets up his DiGiCo SD5 console. So that'll be fun. Don't miss that. The last thing. Yeah. The last thing there is, of course, We Make Events North America. As everybody watching is, I'm sure, painfully aware, we really haven't done anything. And this event is coming up. So jump onto the Facebook page. There is a We Make Events North America. Go to the Facebook page, check it out. Get your reminder. This is September 1st. There are different times for these events all across, but generally about 9 p.m. to midnight. See how you can get involved, bring awareness to what's going on. Obviously, we do need to bring this to the forefront, not just for those in our community, but our congressmen and women, our senators, all the way up the food chain. They need to know about this. So anyway, make your voice heard. Make sure people know about your industry and the fact that we can't go do shows right now.
Absolutely.
I'll leave you with that. Once again, Charlie, Hernandez, thank you so much. Kevin, thank you. Really appreciate you, gentlemen. Matt,
awesome.
Kyle.
Thanks for having us.
Yep.
Hey, Kevin, we've been running a poll. We've had 5,000 people have responded. They said they want to see you jump off the back of the boat. We've never done it before, but we think we can do it today.
Well,
let's do it.
It's only 5,000. The phone, breaking up. It's not. Yeah, no, I gotta go scrub. I gotta go scrub the deck, Matty.
Absolutely.
No, you guys, this was really special. And again, thanks so much. And we're between Claire Global, DiGiCo, and JH. I think we're all very, very special. Those are special entities, and we're all very lucky to be where we are right now, and very blessed on it.
Absolutely. And I do appreciate your product placement with Sure as well. I know they'll appreciate that. All right, guys. Good night to everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been fun to be back, and we'll see you again next week. Thanks.
Take care, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.